And we've had a great response from our readers and very, very few complaints. We've had a great response from our newsroom, who understand why we're doing it, and have got no issues or worries with it. And we've had a great response from advertising partners. I mean, one of the basic points is, I think that, and this is a creative point really, we're moving from a world where advertising can work on the basis of kind of captive attention. The person's already engaged and captured by something else, and you can kind of piggyback on that, to a world where advertising has to capture attention, just like in any other form of content. And that requires a very different kind of creativity. It needs proper stories with light and shade, it needs challenge, it needs hooks, it needs to assume no level of attention, it needs to win its audience. And I think what's great about our experience is we've got, I guess, about 90 people now involved in this. We've got a business which is doubling its revenue every year. This year it'll probably do, I guess, 60 million of revenue, but it's growing incredibly strongly. But it's based on creating great content, which is journalistic in the sense that it's about real human beings and it's about real stories. It's not a fantasy world, life is not perfect, and it's very engaging.
But let me ask you a question, actually both of you a question about this as the cube continues to toss. One of the challenges with native is really about the economics. It takes a lot of work to do it right on both the agency and the publisher standpoint. Whereas traditional advertising, you make it once, it can run almost anywhere. Margins on that are very high for everyone. So how do you adapt to the economics of native in an industry that's been dependent on scale?
It's an enormous challenge. I think one of the things, you're right, that we prefer to, like, as an industry, we prefer to do that spray and pray kind of thing. So like make sort of 3 or 4 bits of content, splice and dice them up into a lot of different directions and put them all over the internet. Whereas this sort of storytelling that Mark's talking about, it takes, the biggest challenge that we have on native, to your point, is shifting is not the fact that we can't do it, not the fact the agencies don't know how to do it, not the fact that the publishers don't know how to do it. It's shifting the mindset of the advertisers away from this idea that you can just buy your way into people's lives into the idea of actually creating something of value. And like that's, how old is the advertising industry? Like, at sort of maturity, that's at least sort of 70 years of like baked in mindset that you need to change. And like, so the biggest challenge is not the economics, like people have got money for that sort of stuff if it works. The biggest challenge is like persuading people that like everything we do as an agency, we'll do, make the logo bigger is still a thing that clients say like all the time. Like everybody knows this. Everyone's like, yeah, it's amazing. Can we put the brand in the first paragraph? And you're like, no, that's not how this works because everybody will drop off. So having partners like the New York Times who are prepared to come in, have the credibility to be able to say, look, this is how it's going to work for you, this is not how it's going to work for you. We're at the very, very early stages of that evolution, but it's going to be like a long time coming, I think.
And I think that there is a real issue here, which is that it's like the campaigns, straightforwardly, need to be big and strategic.
Yeah.
And the price points, you know, for us, $750,000, $1 million and a half dollars. And so the whole thing needs to be strategic. It's kind of TV money. It's kind of competing for the kind of things you would do a TV campaign for. And I think it's a real issue for the kind of part of the digital ad market, which is not big brands, big campaigns. In the middle there, I think it's a very dangerous territory because Facebook and Google and co are so good at better targeting than most publishers can do, better price points, much smaller CPMs. I think I see a kind of real pressure point in the middle. And you know, I won't mention names, but there are plenty of digital publishers who are really struggling, who've got, in a sense, quite good branded content businesses, but are finding it virtually impossible to scale. If you're trying to scale a branded content business with a kind of average campaign of 75 grand, 100 grand, it's really hard. It's kind of like a kind of sort of, you know, kind of People's Liberation Army problem of scale, and trying to get CMOs to sign off on this stuff and the rest of it. And delivering it to appropriate quality is really hard.
Yeah, and you see like this, the like GE is a really good example because GE has been like fascinating. The two halves of the debate are content and context. So the context is branded stuff happening on the New York Times, and like everybody's kind of started to agree now that that's a valuable thing to do. And like the problem, the other half of it is content. So a brand like GE that has done an amazing job of translating something that's essentially quite a boring proposition into something that feels sexy and interesting and creative and fun, has managed to marry those two things together in a really good way. So a lot of the other native content, like native content done badly, is native content where the advertisers realize that they need the context. So they're like, okay, we want to talk to young people, we're going to go to Vice. But they haven't figured out yet what the content is. And like Vice is doing the best job that they can, but to rein in some of that kind of advertising instinct. But it quite often feels still like branded content with the emphasis on the branded.
But the depth, I mean, the G depth is kind of amazing. I mean, you know, you've got the CMO of the company, fully engaged. You know, Linda Boff has done an amazing job in recent years. But Linda, you know, I'm in the brainstorming, creative brainstorming sessions. I mean, this is a kind of, it's a deep conversation about how we can work with them to get their message across, and it involves, it's a multi-part partnership.
Who has the cube? Who's got the cube? Cube. Oh, toss over here, right here. Oh, good catch.
That's a
Good
good
catch.
system.
Hi.